Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn have officially been announced as the New York Jets head coach and general manager, introduced rather to the media in Florham Park, New Jersey, and what the two had to say left fans really excited to see what the future holds for our New York Jets. A lot to get into. We'll break it down and much more. All coming up here on a Monday evening edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, joined by the great Paul Boy Green Esden Jr.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Long.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk here on this Monday evening, January 27th, 2025, and a lot to get into today. Before we break it down, smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We greatly appreciate all your support here on the program. A lot to get into today. Well, Darren Mougey, Aaron Glenn, introduced to the media at the team's facility in Florham Park, New Jersey, and, it was this narrative was trending more towards Glenn because he was asked the majority of the questions, but what these two had to say today really leaves fans excited for what the future holds and what the potential of this regime holds. So we'll break that down and much more all coming up here, joined by Paul Boy Green Esden Jr., one of the great Jets content creators out on the internet. So let's bring him on the show. Our guy BG joining us here on the show. Paul, how you doing?
What is going on, Connor? Gosh darn long, baby. Here we are. It's beautiful. Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn both being introduced today. The new HC and GM of the NYJ. Exciting times. And hey, they checked off a lot of things off my bucket list that I was hoping to hear during the presser. So some very encouraging things in the opening introduction to the new leadership brass for the Jets.
Now, BG, I know you've been a big Aaron Glenn guy. Darren Mougey, we were just speaking about, was not someone who was particularly on everyone's radar when this search first started. He emerged as one of the later interviews. But let's be honest here. The three finalists, quite frankly, were people who no one really expected. And Trey Brown, Lance Newmark, and Darren Mougey. Obviously, Darren Mougey ends up getting the job. I guess where I'm going to start today, Boy Green, is, does the inexperience overall of this regime concern you at all? Because one of the things when this search first started was, we want experience. We're tired of first timers. We're tired of guys learning on the spot. Well, Jets just brought in two first-time head coach and a first-time head coach and a first-time general manager in Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey. Does this concern you at all whatsoever? Do you have confidence in these two to lead the green and white for hopefully years to come?
Sometimes, Connor, you got to risk it to get the biscuit, baby. And, that was, to your point, the narrative, the theme, the leaks were, hey, the Jets are looking for experience, at least at one of the positions, if not both, was the conversation that was coming out in New York Jets land. And, I don't often quote Robert Saleh anymore, but one of Robert Saleh's isms and things he'd like to say is there are two kinds of coaches in football. The ones that have been fired and the ones that are going to be fired. And if you bring up the retread options, which would have been experienced guys, that means those guys at some point were fired in their past. So Thomas Dimitrioff, we talked before the show. Yep. He's a guy I liked a lot, a guy who had a lot of experience. I loved his run with the Falcons. Obviously not perfect. Eventually he gets canned, but there was a lot to like there on the resume of a guy who succeeded. And you're like, hey, man, if anyone deserves a second whack at the pinata as a former general manager, he would have made sense. But besides him, you look at the group, and I'm cool with the high upside swing, and that's what the New York Jets are doing. Again, you're cutting off half the field of the Jets. Literally would have said at the beginning of the search, we don't give a flying hoot about any first-timer, no chance, not even going to consider them. The Jets would have cut off half the field immediately, if not more so, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Because for whatever reason, a lot of general managers that have gotten the job before don't get second whacks. We see it all the time with retread coaches. We don't see it all the time with general managers. So ultimately, is this pairing of Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn going to work? Only God knows. But the fact of the matter is, I like the high upside swing. Darren Mougey, the third youngest general manager in the league. Aaron
39
Glenn,
years old.
Not as young, but, a former Jets player, a guy that a lot of people have rallied around. It's an exciting combination at the very least for the New York Jets.
Yeah, for sure. I guess you mentioned Robert Saleh there, so a lot of comparisons here, BG, between Glenn and Robert Saleh. Well, they're both first-time defensive minds. A lot of the same things were said about them during during each of their respective coaching cycles. There, I know you're a big AG guy. Do you see any similar parallels between Aaron Glenn and Robert Saleh? I guess the one main thing is the leadership. Aaron Glenn, from what he said today, I thought he won over a lot of fans, and he certainly won me over. I was a big AG guy going into this, and what he said today really made me even feel more comfortable about this hire. The whole thing with Robert Saleh was the all gas, no break. He wasn't particularly viewed as a natural leader. Do you think AG is the natural leader, and do you think he's going to bring, that energy, that culture, that shift that this team needs to the New York Jets? Hopefully, in a timely manner.
Yeah, we can only hope on that last portion of the exam. The fact of the matter is this, that it's a lazy comparison to make when people say, oh, solid defensive guy. Oh, Aaron Glenn, defensive guy. Boom, same guy. But here's the thing, okay? Robert Saleh was all gas, no break. Aaron Glenn says, buckle your seatbelt. Safety first. Wrong. That's a very important. He said, buckle your seatbelts before anything else, and then let's have this. Let's enjoy the ride here. So I like the safety element there from Aaron Glenn. Very nice, very responsible. As a family with many young children, that's wonderful. For old Aaron Glenn there. But in all seriousness, the thing that I like from Aaron Glenn and I think is going to resonate with the players is no offense to Robert Saleh. And now that I've said no offense, I can then offend him in any way that he wasn't an NFL player. He was a college football player. He had some high school success, but that was it. Aaron Glenn was a pro that was in the National Football League for 15 years. Eight of
Yep.
his 15 years were spent with the Jets. He was an all-pro player. Eric Allen, the Jets senior reporter, said he's one of the best Jets to ever put on a uniform. He was a wonderful player for the New York Jets, and he's been around the league, a former first-round pick, and he had success in the league. Again, I think a lot of that is going to resonate with the players because when he points at them and criticizes them, and that was one of my favorite quotes that hasn't got a lot of run in the post-presser world where we're all reacting to it, has been AG talking about accountability, and he says it is impossible to have accountability without responsibility, and that he said it's important for him, AG, the leader of the team, is to lay down the expectations right from the get-go. This is what is expected of you. And now that we both understand where the line is, you have to meet that line. If you don't meet that line, I'm going to hold you accountable to the line. So the accountability is another big thing with Saleh, who was we say for both guys, right? This is why I think it's lazy. We get the player coach label for Saleh and Aaron Glenn. They both get thrown in the same pool. Robert Saleh's problem was he couldn't separate the line of being his friend and being the
Yes.
superior.
That's not
So
going to be a problem with AG.
it certainly doesn't seem that way. He got pretty aggressive during the presser, which I liked, by the way. I've had a lot of discipline in my life. So, that's a lot of what he was saying resonated with me, quite frankly. And that's it. Aaron Glenn says he has no problem. The Aaron Rodgers quote got a lot of love. No one's above the team. Everyone's on the same level. This isn't just the Aaron Rodgers show, and I'm paraphrasing, but this isn't just the Aaron Rodgers show. There's a full team here. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. The country club comments that come out about Aaron. So him coming out and laying the line down on that also speaks to his accountability and things of that nature. Again, right now it's obviously the honeymoon period. We're all sipping champagne. We're dancing around. It's crazy times. But eventually, when the rubber meets the road, if Aaron Glenn is doing the things that he's saying now as it pertains to accountability, I think accountability separates him from Saleh. I think being a player in the league for a long time separates him from Saleh. And the turnarounds he had, whether as a player from Rich Kotite to Bill Parcells or the Lions transformation that happened with them being terrible and then them coming back. It's not just one random example for Saleh where it happened with the 49ers and a lot of other things seem to also be kind of going in that way, and he was a beneficiary of it. It seems like AG is just a completely different guy.
You mentioned Aaron Rodgers there, Boy Green, and some of the things Aaron Glenn said is he pretty much gave that same answer. We still have to evaluate it. Again, I'm paraphrasing here, but here's something that he exactly said to the media, quote, "You're not getting me. So don't waste your time asking these Aaron Rodgers questions. When all's said and done, do you think Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of this team?" I think it's a really fair question, especially given the fact that there's a first-time GM and a first-time head coach and a defensive-minded head coach as well. So is he going to want to, is Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey going to want to take a flyer on a bridge option, someone who has a lot of upside, potentially Justin Fields? Maybe they bring in another veteran and a Marcus Mariota, someone of that nature. I know that's not a fascinating name, and at that point, fans would probably prefer to just run it back with Aaron Rodgers. But Boy Green, do you see Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey sitting together and saying, "Hey, we want him to come back on a reduced contract. If he's able to lower his cap number, we want Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback of this team because I feel he gives the green and white the best shot to win in 2025, and that is what we're focused on." Or could you see the path where, Aaron Glenn spoke a lot about sustained success today? They spoke a lot about drafting and developing players. Could you see those two sitting down and saying, "Hey, we spoke a lot about sustained success, drafting and developing guys. We want to draft a Jalen Milroe in the third round and then bring in an older guy to kind of help be that mentor rather than Aaron Rodgers on this crazy cap hit."
Kind of, if we're gonna play this weird Halloween, make a shift game where me and you are Hansel and Gretel over here, we're trying to sift through all the breadcrumbs that are sort of here. I think Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn left breadcrumbs to lead us to both potential paths, and both potential paths that I'm talking about is that yes, honey. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's left me puzzled too. Sorry, my daughter's right. With it. Yeah.
You're
That
good.
yeah, that gets me tossed all over the place. She must have got interested by the breadcrumbs. But no, the breadcrumbs I think go in both ways. You heard Darren Mougey, you heard Aaron Glenn say winning, winning, winning. All we've done
Yes.
is winning. We need to change the mindset of the fans because, in a very polite way, he said, they've been in loser town and they need to realize
Yeah.
that the Jets were once a winning organization. We need to get back to winning. So he didn't say that as matter of factly, but you get the point. Is that they've mentioned winning a lot. And if you mention winning, you're like, well, Aaron Rodgers, that's got to be part of the winning. He's a win now, right now guy. It's not a multiple year wait thing for Aaron Glenn. But then you hear all the comments we just talked about. No one's above the team. Everyone's the same level. This isn't the Aaron Rodgers show. Again, paraphrasing of this content and going through it. So when you hear all that, you're like, yeah. So at one point, I'm like, okay, Aaron's coming back, and then at the end of the press
Yeah.
conference, I'm like, okay, never mind, it's Tyrod Taylor time. Never mind, it's Aaron Rodgers. So I've gone back and forth. They say they're going to evaluate it. The only part for me that's a little whatever the word is that conflicting is so Jake Glazer over the weekend, NFL Fox Insider, he says that he spoke with Aaron Glenn that morning on Conference Championship Sunday. And he said that Aaron wants to make a decision quickly. He doesn't want this to drag out. And we're all like, oh, okay.
Mm.
Apparently, Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers were open to each other, but hey, this decision is going to come quick. And we're
Yes.
like, well, that makes sense because, again, free agency is March 14th. You have the legal tampering period a few days before that. You start adding up all the dates here, like, oh boy, we need to move and groove here. Time is of the essence. Then you hear Aaron Glenn say, hey, we're not going to rush into any decisions, pal. We're going to be making the right choice. And who knows how long it'll take. And I'm like, oh, okay, that seems contradictory to the thing we heard over the weekend. So it goes back and forth. Long story short, my gut tells me that Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I think he ends up being the guy. I think it's a multiple fold situation. Aaron Glenn said he and Darren Mougey are going to watch the film of all the games from last season, make a judgment. I think that there are two. One, the quarterback options are limited. The Jets have the 7th overall pick in a weak quarterback class, so none of the top guys should be available when they're picking at 7. Again, unless they just get their doors blown off by Cam Ward and they offer a Godfather offer to Tennessee and move up. Maybe that's a different conversation. Well, I'm not there yet, so that's not going to happen. Let's put draft aside. You mentioned free
Yep.
agency, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, like –
Mhm.
it just there seems to be questions there of how legitimate is that. And there's always door number 3, which is the great unknown. Does Matthew Stafford become available? Want to
Yeah.
reunite with Nick Caley if he ends up being the OC for the Jets and then the Rodgers and Jets split apart? Does he become an option? I don't love this one, but does Derek Carr? Do you park that car? Do you drive that car? What the hell's going on there? I don't know. So is there some alternative option that we're not seeing clearly on a spot track free agent list of quarterbacks? We're like, oh, a surprise guy all of a sudden becomes available that we didn't expect. So I have to leave the possibility open. I guess, for something like that. But because of the limited options, because they're trying to win now, because Aaron is, quite frankly, the best option that they have, for better or for worse, he's there. I think that's what they're going to ride with.
Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We greatly appreciate all your support here on the show. 1,450 subscribers. Let's hit 2K by the draft. Let's hit 3K by the start of the 2025 season. Your support means a ton. Don't forget about our membership raffle leaderboard down below. Garrett Wilson signed many on the Wayne Corbett signed football. Free item from the merch store and a channel emoji among the prizes we're giving away this month. And our guy Jimmy Jets, channel moderator and a channel member, comes in here extra early and gets things started for us today with a gifted membership, and that went to one of our Lions fans, David D, who's a member.
What
Thank
the
Jimmy
hell?
in the chat. Yeah,
Oh.
we got a few. I think we have 3 or 4 Bills fans. We got a Broncos fan. We got 2 or 3 Lions fans. And I
Did
think
you make a
some,
trade? How did we get Lions fans in here?
I have no idea. We have
details on that?
we have David D and we have SW Lion. Those are our residential Lion fans here on NY Flight Jets Talk. So I appreciate all your support, and I appreciate all your support on the show. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll be sure to get to those. So yeah, that's where we are right now. Appreciate all your support. As always, follow Boy Green at BoyGreen25, all social media platforms if you haven't already. One of the best Jets content creators out on the internet. Now, Boy Green, we spoke about the Aaron Rodgers situation. Another interesting quote from Aaron Glenn is that he's not going to call plays on defense. So that was something that I was kind of expecting, but was a surprise to some. I think that puts some more pressure to get the defensive coordinator hire right. Now, does this make you kind of shift towards the more experienced route when it comes to hiring a defensive coordinator? Steve Wilks is a name that has been tossed around. He has a ton of experience, was a defensive backs coach for around a decade, had a stint as a head coach, which didn't go too well. He had an okay stint as an interim head coach, has done great things as a defensive coordinator in this league. It's trending like he's getting the job, but you're going the experienced route here when it comes to a play calling defensive coordinator?
Absolutely. I want someone who's been around the block. And boy, has Steve Wilks been around the block, both for good and bad teams and everything in between. So first off, on the Aaron Glenn thing, it makes a ton of sense. We saw it fail miserably just this past season with Jeff Ulbrich. Now, in fairness, Jeff Ulbrich got that thrown on his plate in the middle of being a head coach, so difficult. Now, he should have decided in the middle of the season either immediately to say, okay, I can't call defensive plays anymore if I'm going to be the head coach, or to delegate that power once he saw shit spinning out of control. And excuse my Guatemalan.
You're good.
Virgin ears. But, that he should have either called that immediately or made the adjustment in the middle of the season. He did neither. And he since in his Atlanta Falcons introductory press conference talked about the pitfalls of that. So, yes, I think AG not calling plays, despite his prowess in that department, I think that's best for business. It does, to your point, put more stress and pressure on whoever the DC is to run it. Another comment I like from AG is that he says he's not married to scheme specific. Now, if you look at his history, Leger Duzable said that at his base, he's a 3-4 guy. But with the Lions, he ran 4-3 based on personnel. AG himself, and I spoke with a person who covers the Detroit Lions and Russell Brown, and he says actually he's not scheme married either. So he's not a 3-4 or 4-3 guy. He just bases it off of whatever is floating the boat. And he said whoever his DC hire will be, because for those who don't know, this is a good nugget to share. I shared it on my show. The Rooney Rule extends to coordinators, folks. So the Jets have to interview. Yes. I read the NFL rulebook because I wanted to catch up because I thought I heard a little nugget and I wanted to double check it. The Rooney Rule forces NFL teams to interview 2 external minority candidates for head coach, general manager, and coordinators, which would explain why the Jets have been a little slow during this process, because everyone keeps saying Nick Caley's top target. Nick Caley's a top target. What the hell are we waiting for? Let's hire Nick Caley. What are we doing out there? And apparently it's because of the Rooney Rule extending to the coordinator position. So, yeah, there you go. There's some Boy Green reading. Over the weekend, I'm reading the NFL rule book. So, I have no social life. What are you going to do, I guess? But that is true. So that's going on. So, anywho, long story short, I love AG's versatility of, hey, I'll run whoever the best coach is will run my scheme. It could be 3-4, it could be 4-3, it could be anything. And he also said it doesn't have to be someone who's had a direct correlation with in the past. Like, it doesn't just have to be a Lions guy or a Saints guy. He said he will just interview the candidates that
the best coach.
So 100%. So I love that. But no, Steve Wilks sounds like he's the favorite. Connor Hughes said he's expected to get the job, so it sounds like he had a lot of sourcing on that. And if he is, great. Steve Wilkes has done the job before, but it's critically important now that AG is officially not calling plays, and that is, leaked out. That's come out in his answers today. It's absolutely important for him to get a guy who's done it before. That experience will be key. I know we skipped experience at HC and GM, where AG is going to be the CEO. He has to trust his assistants, and his assistant is someone that, having done it before, I think is massively important.
Now, you mentioned Nick Caley there as a potential offensive coordinator candidate. He actually interviewed for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator vacancy
Ooh.
today, which is, I don't know if you saw that. It just happened. It happened about
I did
30
not.
minutes ago.
No,
Yeah,
that's
right
breaking
before the
news to
show
me. Yeah.
started. So he interviewed for the Bucks OC job today. I know he's a name who's pretty interesting. Who are some of the other offensive coordinator candidates, BG, you think fans should keep their eyes on? John Morton is someone, former Jets OC, connected to Glenn. He's now in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
He's off the table. Pete Carmichael has a connection with Mougey over in Denver, also connected to Glenn from their time in with the Saints together. Who's another name? Tanner Engstrand, Detroit's passing game coordinator.
Yes.
It's looking like now he's not going to get their OC job. That opens up
Correct.
another opportunity. Mark Burnell, former Jet, history with the team, was the
Sure.
backup quarterback with them for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Spent some time with Glenn over in Detroit. Who are some of the names you think could be front runners for this job alongside Nick Caley?
Yeah, another name that went off the books. It happened over the weekend. Clint Kubiak took the Seattle Seahawks job. He was
Yes, that's
apparently
what I
a
meant.
guy
Yep.
on Aaron Glenn's short list, so he's off the table. So you have to remove him. There's Norv Turner's son. I believe that's
Scott Turner.
Scott Turner. That is
Yeah.
correct. So Scott Turner is on that short list. He was the interim OC when the Raiders made all kinds of changes, staff changes in the middle of the year. And obviously, his father was a wonderful offensive mind for a long time in the league, both as a head coach and as an offensive coordinator. His Dallas Cowboys work speaks for itself. His father's does anyway. So that would be kind of a cool package. I think some people even flirted with that for if Clint Kubiak came over, could he get his dad, who's a four-time Super Bowl coach, both as a head coach and as an assistant coach? That'd be kind of cool to get a father-son
Yeah.
thing going on there because of the influence. Same could be said for the Turners with Norv serving in consultant roles. He worked
Mhm.
with his son recently with the Raiders. So obviously he has to be up for grabs. Now, the concern with like a Mark Brunell is the limited experience.
Oh.
His coaching career after his NFL career was over, he did private college and some like high school stuff. And then he became a guy with the Lions as their quarterbacks coach. So he doesn't have a lot of play calling experience. That would have been sort of the same leap that Josh McCown took. Now, Josh McCown still, which is another name, I suppose, that we have to put in the blender. Now, Adam Schefter said that he's
Yeah.
not going to leave the Vikings unless it's for an HC gig. Now, you either take Adam Schefter at his word, he's one of the best in the business, so that would make a lot of sense. Or if the Jets give him, Josh, some sort of lucrative offer, maybe we shouldn't discount, especially today, seeing the press conference from Aaron Glenn. He seems like a pretty persuasive guy in the room. I wonder if he's one-on-one with a Josh McCown or one of these hot offensive coordinator names. Can he sing the right siren songs to lure those people over here to the Big Apple? I think that's really intriguing too. So obviously you got to go Scott Turner. You've got to throw Mark Brunell in based on the Lions connections. Tano Engelstred is another one that you brought up. They're going in a different direction at OC. So him getting passed over, he may just want to skip out of town. Kelvin Shepard, I know this is
He got
defense, but
promoted.
Kelvin Shepard gets a promotion at DC. So obviously he's not going to come join the Jet staff, as there was a lot of rumors for that. So yeah, Turner, Engelstred, Brunell, Turner was another one. I'm trying to Josh McCown. Obviously, like I said, he's a name you have to at least kind of put in the
Caley,
pot,
yeah.
even if that one seems a little bit unlikely. But yeah, let's see if the Jets end up getting Caley. Caley would be a lot of fun because again, Sean McVay guy, that's super intriguing. You mentioned John Morton, the former Jets OC. He's an underrated Jets OC that I don't think Jet fans appreciated in the time what he brought to the table. But as time went away from John Morton's tenure, I think a lot of people said, "Oh, that guy wasn't
Yeah.
too bad after all." So I think there's been a little bit of that hindsight making the picture look even better there for that perspective. So there's a lot of names, but obviously I think the bluntness here is this is such a critically important hire for the New York Jets to balance it out. Again, AG's not calling plays. He's going to be the guy overseeing the operation, spending time with the offense, defense, and special teams. They just need a guy. To me, it doesn't have to be experienced. Nick Keeley certainly wouldn't be experienced. He doesn't have offensive coordinator experience on his resume, but obviously he's been around us really smart coaches, so you just got to hope that he can make the leap. But whoever they pick, this is just so massively important for the Aaron Glenn coaching staff.
Boy Green, I really appreciate you hopping on. I'll stay on a little longer, answer your questions, take your calls. Like I said, BG, really appreciate you hopping on as always. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, obviously we had a couple of other in-house coaching news. Brant Boyer's going to San Francisco, reuniting with Robert Saleh. So obviously we're going to get a new special teams coach. Chris Banjo's the one that's getting all the love right now, the assistant with the Denver Broncos. Obviously connections to Chris, Mougey. He's got connections with Mougey. He obviously has connections with Glenn through Sean Payton. So that one certainly makes a lot of sense if we get more steam on that. Tony Oden joined the Tennessee Titans, so unfortunately we lost him. And Aaron White kind of interviewed for the Packers D-line coach. We'll see where he ends up. He seems like a popular name out there, but the Jets were talking to him about potentially coming back. So that's another name to keep an eye out for. Now, some people are going to be kind of sad because I love T.O. I think T.O. is going to be a future head coach in this league one day. So I love T.O. a lot. Whitecott and T.O., just for their respective roles, these are guys that, some people are going to be happy with because, hey, let's just flush down the toilet everything that happened last year and let's start fresh. Others will be like, well, not everyone was terrible on the coaching staff. So I think there's going to be a little bit of that to it as well. So, yeah, a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff happening, but it's great to finally put pen to paper here. Introduce Aaron Glenn to the Jets fan base, especially the current fan base. Like you, Connor, you're a good example. He was drafted in 1994. I was 1 when he was drafted by the New York Jets. So, you were negative 1,000. So, it's cool to see Aaron Glenn introducing himself to this new era of Jet fans. So I think that part of it is really cool for me. And then Darren Mougey, to all of our points, we were talking before the show started, that Darren Mougey was this kind of wild card in the race, and he's an exciting guy. Now, it could be exciting like a plane crash, but it could also be exciting and great news. So, either way, it should be entertaining to watch as always in Jets land.
BG, have a great night. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, pal. Like the video, hit subscribe. I see a million people tied here for all these places. Get the memberships flowing for the love of God. Let's like the video, hit subscribe. Let's spread the gospel. Also, can we get Connor Long? Wait. Before I go, 1 second. Let me do a discount double check right here real quick. Can we? Okay, now you're over 1,000 followers. But let's keep it going. Let's get him 20,000 followers for God's sake.
Yeah, are you looking at Twitter? Because I was at I was at 1,200, 1,400, something along those lines, until Elon put all the code in, and then I realized 400 of the followers were bots. So I got dropped back down to 870. So I had to work my way back up. Yeah, but I'm at 1,000 now. Yeah, I'm back at 1K on Twitter. So yeah, follow me on Twitter if you guys haven't already, at Connor_long15, and follow BG everywhere. Read his work, heavy.com, at BoyGreen25, all social media. One of the best Jets content creators you will ever find on the internet.
Thanks, pal. Thanks for having me on the show. Enjoy the rest of it.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Boy Green Esden Jr. checking in here on the show. If you haven't already, give him a follow, give him a sub. One of the best Jets content creators out on the internet. Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Really appreciate all your support. We will take your calls if you want to call into the show. Click the pinned comment in the chat. We'll answer your questions. Keep the questions coming. We'll be sure to get to those. Then our membership raffle, Garrett Wilson sign, mini helmet, Winker Bet sign football, free item from the merch store, channel emoji among the prizes we are giving away this month. I mean, we're running out of time. We're doing the raffle on Friday, so get in on that if you haven't already. Add to your tickets if you want to support the show even more and get a chance to win some epic prizes. Let's go over to the phone lines. Our guy Gary is up first here on the hotline. Gary, Nets are on right now. Has it started yet? I was doing the
it started. I paused it because I saw that you were live.
I appreciate that, Gary.
Oh, of course. I missed the beginning of the show.
Okay.
And and maybe you went over this, but what do you think Glenn and Mougey means for Mougey? Is that how we're saying this?
Yeah, Darren Mougey.
Mougey. I mean, I'm going to get this wrong for the next 3 years, but hopefully one day I get it right. By the time you graduate high school, hopefully he's still the GM, and then at that point, hopefully I get it right. That's my goal, is that I get it right before you graduate high school. Mougey. All right. What do you guys? Well, I guess just you, Paul's God. But what do you think this means? And maybe you addressed this earlier for Rodgers coming back.
I think it's really interesting, Gary. Two things that I honed in on right away that I noticed from the press conference were Aaron Glenn, Darren Mougey, they both spoke a lot about sustained success along with drafting and developing young players. So that quote's kind of interesting to me just because you look at Rodgers, someone who's 41 years old, someone who's going to be 42 in December, someone who I think if he's here with the Jets next season, it's only for one more year. He's a short-term answer at the quarterback position. So those words from Mougey and Glenn certainly caught my eye. And also some of the things Glenn said in the media scrum after the whole intro, he basically said, first off, he didn't tip any move. He was like, stop asking me about Aaron Rodgers. You're just going to get the same answer every time. You're wasting your time. So don't ask me about Aaron Rodgers again. Some of the things he said, though, was like every player is equal. Every single player is equal here on this roster. And there was a little that, not everyone was equal we saw that during the mini camp when Rodgers went off to Egypt and missed those 2 days. And that was a whole big deal in the national media. I could see how it would rub players the wrong way. If I had to make a prediction as of now, I think Aaron Rodgers is back for one more year on a $15 to $17 million pay cut. I think they evaluate the option and say he gives us the best chance to win. I could see him drafting a Kyle McCord in the 5th round, a Dylan Gabriel in the 4th round. I think they'll draft a quarterback this year, run it back with Rodgers for one more season, and then 2026, that's where I think you take a big swing in the 1st round and try to get your franchise guy. So short answer, if I had to make a prediction, yes, Aaron Rodgers is here next season. Am I a fan of it? Not particularly, but I think that's the case for this team.
I wanted to ask this about the quarterback. Because I think, I don't know, I'm like 50-50. Sometimes I wake up and say, yeah, Rodgers is going to be back for another year. And then another time, how much of a pay cut is he willing to take? I think is the question. But here's, what do you think about the possibility or the idea of either trading back in the 1st round to draft a quarterback or trading multiple picks to get back late in the 1st round and take, say, Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe late in the 1st round?
I'm not a fan of taking any quarterback in the 1st round this year. I don't think Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe are 1st-round talents. I don't think they have potential to be a franchise quarterback this year. I think relying on Jalen Milroe to be a potential franchise guy is very, very risky. I think he's going to need to sit for potentially 2 full seasons. He's an absolute, again, Gary, I think he's the most upside among any quarterback in this year's draft.
Yeah, best athlete in the room. And that's why he's going to go into the draft day, and we're going to see the pro
Combine.
day,
yeah,
in the combine, and everyone's going to say he's a 2nd rounder, and then he's going to be the best athlete in the combine, and he's going to be taken 12th overall. Like, this happens every year.
Yeah. So no, I would not. I would trade back only if it's. So I've been doing some mock drafts recently. The only scenario I would trade back is all the top defensive players are off the board. In Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, those guys are off the board. Ted McMillan's off the board. That's the scenario where I'm trading back because I'm a big fan of Malachi Starks, Gary. I don't know if you're familiar with his game.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, safety at 7.
That's what I was. That's why
you try to trade down to 10. If so, like who's trading? Like who's trading up?
The Saints. I saw the Saints as a potential team to trade up in the mock I did the other day. I've been doing a lot of mocks off air. I did one on air the other day, but one of the ones I did off air, all those guys were gone, and I explored trades. I think the Saints gave me a 2nd and their pick to trade up one spot because Shedeur was still available. For some reason, the Raiders didn't take a quarterback, and it was some crazy scenario where Shedeur was available at 7. So I went back a spot or two. I got a nice haul, and then they went ahead and took Shedeur Sanders. So that's a good question, though. Like, if a quarterback's not there, all those guys are off the board, who's going to want to trade up for a lot of value? Like I said, Malachi Starks, I'm a huge fan of. If they trade back to 15, 17, he's there. You run up to the podium, but I'm not a huge fan of taking safety at top 10. But at the same time, as I say that, the Jets are probably going to need 4 new safeties next year. I think Chuck Clark, Isaiah Oliver, Tony Adams may be on the ROFA tender for less than $1 million. You can bring him back. And Ashton Davis. Maybe Jalen Mills is back, but I don't think you can rely on him for absolutely anything. Like, you have to, he has such a low floor and a relatively low ceiling. You can't rely on him for anything. So the bottom line is I think you're looking for 4 new safeties, 3 minimum, potentially 4 new safeties next season. It's like, who are your other options at that point? Will Campbell, the tackle out of LSU, I'm a huge fan of him, but are we going to go tackle in the top 10 again to really solidify the offensive line? At that point, I'd rather go with the defensive need. That's Malachi Starks. So I think that is the worst case scenario where McMillan's off the board, all the defensive guys are off the board, and both quarterbacks are off the board there.
I actually think safety is a premium position. I know it's not treated like one, it's not considered one, but I think the game is so up the middle now, right? Like there's so much up the middle that the safety is a valued position and it doesn't get treated like so. I'm not opposed to drafting Malachi Starks. I just know that like the league has gone away from that, right? But to me, if you could trade down and get another second, and you could take Malachi Starks at 9 or 10 or whatever, then if and I don't really like Milroe either. I do like Jackson Dart, but like you, I don't like him in the first round because there's a high bust rate for guys like Jackson Dart. I'm not saying he's going to bust. I'm saying that there's a possibility there. Gunslinger forces things into tight windows, right? There's a possibility that he could bust, or at least it's going to take him a couple of years to develop. If we draft him in the second round, I think there's less pressure. If he's sitting there, when we pick, what do we pick, 40th or something like that? If he's
42nd or 43rd.
Okay.
Yeah, 42nd or 43rd.
If he's sitting there, 42, and we have another second round pick from the Saints or whatever, would you roll the dice on him then knowing we have another second round pick?
Malachi Starks. Sorry, where did you say they were picking?
We take Starks. Yeah, we trade down. We take Starks, and we get another second round pick in that trade, right? So we trade down to take Starks later in the first round, 9, 10, 11, whatever, and we get another second in that hypothetical trade. This is a hypothetical. So we trade 7 to 10 and get another second rounder. Would you then, having 2 second rounders, and if Jackson Dart or Quinn Ewers is sitting there, would you roll the dice on one of them knowing we have another second round pick? It's kind of house money.
You said, are you talking
in
about
the second?
In the second. You say Quinn Ewers in the second? No, I don't think
Let's say Ewers or Jackson Dart is sitting there in the second
Jackson
round.
Dart. I think Quinn Ewers is a 5th round talent. I'm not big on I know you're a Texas guy, Gary.
I'm not a Quinn Ewers fan. I cried for Arch Manning all season. I said if we're serious about winning a national championship, we'll start Arch. I'm not a Quinn Ewers advocate.
Okay.
I've said all season long he's not good. He can't play a clean game. He's a horrible decision maker. He's a low IQ quarterback. I've said that all season. But he's got arm talent, right? And he can spin the ball.
So does Jalen Milroe. Like Jalen Milroe's less accurate.
You watch Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe looks like he hasn't played the position before. Like his mechanics, his back leg is falling all over the place. It's like, I'm not saying Jalen Milroe is never going to be good. I'm saying that is a long way away. And I'm not spending a first round pick on a guy that I basically had to teach him how to play quarterback. I'm
not spending a first round pick on Quinn Ewers either. At that point, I'd rather draft Kyle McCord in the 4th round from Syracuse.
Okay.
You're talking about someone who has absolutely incredible mechanics. Like he is very mechanically sound, pocket passer. I think he's 6'3", 220, something like that. Don't quote me on the weight. I know he's 6'3". I think he's in that 215, 220 range. Reminds me a lot from like the pocket passer perspective and a size perspective to Jared Goff. Reminds me a lot of Jared Goff. The athleticism still is not there. I'd say it's average to below average, which concerns me a little. And also his decision-making under pressure struggles a little bit. And he's prone to making turnover-worthy plays. But you're telling me, what's his name? Kyle McCord's there in the 4th round. I think you run that card right up to the podium and you take him. Again, I'm not for taking a quarterback insanely early this draft. I would rather wait until 2026.
So if Dart was sitting there at 2, if he was sitting there when we pick at 42, you would still pass on him?
Again, it depends on the overall players. I'll show you the mock, Gary, that I did yesterday. I pull up some of the screenshots. It depends. If it's between Jahad Campbell, Xavier Watts, Gary Zabel, the tackle from North Dakota State, and Jackson Dart, I'm taking Xavier Watts among those guys. That's just where I am. Like, and to go back to the Starks argument, if the Jets trade down to 12, I'm okay taking them because I don't think there's any.
I'm okay with 10 or lower. Like,
yeah,
out of the top, good value. If you're trading 7 to 8, how much are you really getting to trade down from 7 to 8? 7 to 10, you'll get some good value, right? You can get another second rounder. I would do that. Yeah.
So here's the first screenshot I have from our mock draft. I'll try to blow this up a little so those watching on iPhone could see it better. Boom. Okay, there we go. First round, it was basically Will Johnson and Ashton Shenty available for me at that point. So T-Mac, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, the quarterbacks were off the board. I settled for Will Johnson at 7. Then the second round, I was debating between Zabel, Watts, Jahad Campbell. I took Watts.
I would do this. The only question they have is about his speed, though, right? Does he have NFL speed? That's kind of the question mark on Watt. I mean, he was really
I'll give
good
you my
in college.
report on him. Yeah, I'll give you my report on Xavier Watts here. Where am I? Xavier Watts. He's a high motor. That's one of the main things I have on him. He's a high motor. The speed doesn't concern me so much. I think he has good, solid acceleration. Given how his speed is kind of on the lower side, he's able to backpedal quick. His feet are kind of move quickly, which I like. He runs downhill quickly. So the speed in like zone or man is concerning a little, but running downhill, trying to get zone, trying to stop the run is not a concern for me whatsoever. So
yeah, he's all over the field. That's why, like, I was reading
Yeah,
scouting reports on him. Their concern was his speed. I'm like, all right. I mean, he's all over. I know college speed and NFL speed are two different things, but he's all over the field. He looks plenty fast to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and then the third round, I took Donovan Jackson. Can potentially start next season if they draft him over Morgan Moses at the right tackle job. A big frame, 6'4", 320, solid play strength, fine mechanics, great job of planting his feet, quickly picks up in pass protection, quickly delivers his hand, great mechanics overall in pass protection, and he's a solid run blocker. Took him in the third round, and then I made a trade. I got the 119th overall pick, 156th overall pick, and a 7th in 2026 in exchange for and then I gave the Bucks 108. I just didn't think there were any impressive players on the board at that time. So at 119, I traded back. I took David Walker. Gary, are you familiar with him, the edge rusher from Central Arkansas?
I'm not. Never heard
Yeah,
of him.
he's an interesting name. Overall, this depth class, this edge class, excuse me, is insanely deep. I'm talking about 15 guys who I think are going to go within the first 7 rounds and a handful who are UDFAs that could have been draftable. Like, I think there are 20 to 22 solid edge rushers in this year's draft class. So I went with Walker here. Walker's an interesting one. They actually gave me an F for this pick, which is a little surprising. I'm personally a fan of his game. He has a great first step. He's a wide package when it comes to rushing the passer, which I like. He's a hard hitter, which I think is something this team needs. So I went with David Walker here in the 4th round. Then, yeah, there's a few more. Oh, this one's going to be tough to see. I went Kyle McCord in the 5th round. Their tight end, 9 picks later.
Yeah.
And then I went Ray Mickens. You know, are you familiar with Mickens?
Of course. Yeah. Clemson. He's projected to go that late.
And they gave me a D+ for that pick, Gary, in the 5th round. They gave me a D+. Some people have him going in the 6th or 7th. He actually met with the Jets at the Shrine Bowl. His dad, obviously, Ray Mickens, former Jets.
Don't you think that if he's there, Uncle Aaron's going to draft him?
Yeah.
I would. Good. I can't even believe he's this low. Like, he was really good at Clemson. I'm shocked that he's projected that low.
Yeah, he's very versatile, has a very high football IQ. Great run stopper. And one of the main takeaways I had from watching some of his games is he's great in man coverage against tight ends, which, Gary, as we know, this team needs a safety who can stop tight ends, because the Jets have not been able to do that in my lifetime of watching football. I don't think I've ever seen a game where I was not concerned of a tight end just beating the Jets and demolishing them, because the Jets have tried everything. They've tried putting Quincy Williams on a tight end. They've tried putting CJ Mosley on a tight end, Tony Adams, Isaiah Oliver, all these guys, and it hasn't worked. I have, RJ Mickens was the second safety I had the Jets selecting in the draft behind Xavier Watts. Like you said, it's a need, so I had them addressing it. And then the last screenshot here, are you familiar with Tonka Hemingway, the run stuffer out of South Carolina?
No.
He's very, very lengthy. He moves very quick. Solid pass rusher. Has a great ability of reading blocks, and he's able to deflect passes pretty easily. So I went with Hemingway in the 6th round, one of the picks I traded back for. So I went with him. And then, the kicker, Ryan Fitzgerald from FSU, I thought I was going to use a 7-round flyer on him. 100% from field goal. His longest was 59 last year. Didn't miss a kick all season. Give me Ryan Fitzgerald in the 7th round. I was between him and LeJohntay Wester, the wide receiver from Colorado. So I was like, all right, both of them are going to be there at 248 where I'm picking next. And then I was like, okay, we'll just take Fitzgerald now. And then Wester went the pick right after me. So I wanted Wester too. I'm a huge fan of him in the 7th round. But I ultimately went Fitzgerald here, and then I think this was the best trade I made the whole draft. I got a 7th this year, 2 7ths in 2026, 6th and a 7th in 2027 for 1 6th rounder this year. So the
How
Texans
did they grade you on the kicker pick? Because I'm familiar. I know the kicker. Where
they
did
gave
grade
me
you on
they
that?
gave me a C plus for him.
All right.
Probably just because it was a kicker.
The
Even though it
kicker,
was in the
yeah.
7th round, it was a kicker. So they probably like give him a C plus there. So yeah, I was expecting like a
If
B
you can
minus.
get a kicker, like I get it's a kicker, it's the least sexy thing you can do. But at least it's one thing you don't have to worry about, right? Like we could just like get that one worry off the board.
Well, it was a major worry this past season.
That's what I'm saying. When everyone's like cut Zerline, I was like, all right, I'm with you, but like guys, tread lightly. Whoever you get who's unemployed is unemployed for a reason. Like he's not on a team for a reason. Like I agree, we can't play Zerline anymore. I'm just saying whoever we find off the scrap heap is going to be a scrap heap kicker. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah,
kickers are tough to come by, and that's why guys like Folk who play until they're 45 years old because they can do it, right? And there's not a whole lot of guys that are accurate. You know, if you're accurate within 50 and you can hit 90% of your kicks within 50 yards, you'll be in the NFL for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Jets are an 8-win team with competent kicking last season.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy to think. Get the kicker position right. I mean, Gary, there's still so much time until we actually consider legit draft talk because it's still January.
It's still there. We still got playoffs going on.
I hate like the Senior Bowl. People just got down there. Like the Senior Bowl still hasn't even started yet. So, and it's known to be the draft starts in Mobile. That whole mantra. I think the combine is when we really get to see who's legit, who's not. I like the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl particularly because we get the measurements on most of these guys, which I think is most important. We get some measurements on them. These Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl practices and stuff, though, I don't think they really affect the stock on a player, even particularly like the combine. Like it's important for the measurements, but how receivers are running routes there, like come on, let's be real. You have the whole season to watch tape on them for. I solely watch Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, Combine. I pay attention to that stuff just so I can get guys 40 times. Their lateral quickness, their high jump, just stuff like that. Because I particularly don't care. I particularly don't care. How sharp a guy could run a route at the combine or a pro.
Yeah, to me, like when we watch a player for 3, 4, 5 years, now 6 sometimes, right, in college. And then we say, scratch that. He ran this in the combine, or like it's like, what about how he plays football? Like, are we going to consider how he plays football, or is that just like
Yeah, it's it's tough. Like again, I don't want to see how sharp Ted McMillan's route running is at the draft when you have 4 years of tape, 3 years of whatever it is tape on him at Arizona State. I'm just, honestly, there's free agents.
Let's. Focus on the football stuff.
Exactly.
The combine stuff is great, and maybe it helps you decide between two guys. But like, let's not disqualify people who played great for 4 or 5 years because we don't like how they played what they did in the combine. It's like, we drafted Zach Wilson off of a pro day throw. Let's not do that again.
Exactly.
Let's not do that again. But the last thing I wanted to ask you, this morning I thought Pete Alonso was going to sign a deal that he could opt out on. Now it looks like the Mets are done and he's going to go to the Angels potentially. Where are you on Pete Alonso?
I would love Pete back, Gary, but after hearing Steve Cohen talk at Amazing Day, obviously the fans want him back, Gary. There's no doubt in that. Mendoza was pretty vague on it overall. Stearns didn't really say much, but Cohen was like, hey, we're trying to get Steve back in the building. We've been as transparent as possible. When all's said and done, I don't think Pete's back next season, unfortunately.
I always thought he would be, and now I'm kind of like, he ain't going to be back. He's going somewhere else.
I thought after Winker signed that deal, I thought it was like pretty much bye-bye. But now there's, I know you got to run and we're going to wrap the show up here soon, so I don't want to get too deep into Mets talk here. But what I was going to say is I'm just concerned overall at the first base position. You have someone who's basically played every day for the past 3 or 4 seasons. Now you're having Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty split reps there. Like that concerns me a little bit. And a name that nobody's talking about with the Mets right now is Jose Iglesias. The Mets still have to re-sign him. I thought people just assumed he was under contract for forever. He's not under contract. I think what the Mets do next season, I think, first off, I think the only way Brett Beatty gets on this team is if he wins that first base job somehow. Other than that, I think he's probably going to be stuck in Syracuse all season. If I had to make a prediction today from like what the infield looks like, I think it looks something like Vientos at first base. I think McNeil plays second base. Lindor at shortstop, Luis Angel Acuna at third base, him and Iglesias. I'd say if Iglesias comes back, probably splitting reps.
It looks good, but let's just sign Alonso. Let's just get it done. Like, you spent all this money on Soto. It's like spending $3 million on a Bugatti and then saying, "Well, I don't really want to put premium gas in it." It's like you spent $3 million on the car. Like, let's not cheap out at the last minute here. Just get Alonso. Stop acting like a budget organization, right? Like go get Pete Alonso. Just get it done. I know it's easy for me to say because it's not my money, but like you spent all this money to ensure a winner. Don't cheap out now on Pete Alonso over a few $1 million. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I hope he comes back, but certainly I'm not looking that way. Gary, appreciate you calling in. You got any final thoughts?
Appreciate you, Connor. Great job.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening. Peace.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guy Gary in Texas checking in with us here on the program. I appreciate you all tuning in. We're going to wrap up the show here shortly. Last chance to give your memberships, comments, questions, super chats. Last chance to call into the show if you'd like to. Click the pinned comment in the chat to do so. I see a lot of you guys talking in the chat about the Russ Wilson move, kind of comparing it here to the Jets situation with Aaron Rodgers. Where are we right now? Go to Allen first. Why would Nick Caley take a job where he'd have a fight with Grandpa Rodgers? If him, I'd pass unless he was told he'd work with his own QB. I think Rodgers could be a significant turnoff for a younger OC candidate like Nick Caley. I can agree with you there to a point. But if it's guaranteed, maybe the Jets are going to take a Jalen Milroe or Dylan Gabriel. I think that makes it more appealing if they're just going to draft a QB. In the first place, I could see Nick Caley going to Tampa, though. I think Pete Carmichael there's a strong chance he gets the Jets OC job. So Pete Carmichael is probably my prediction as of now. Mainly given due to the fact that the Tampa Bay OC job is now open, which is very, very appealing. Where are we? Guy Allen coming back in. Connor, when I get back on the air, I want you at 3K T-minus 7 months. Hit subscribe, guys. Your support means a ton. Let's get to 3K when Allen comes next on the show, which will be in 7 months, like he said. So hit subscribe, helps us grow tremendously here on the show. Billy SBC, Glenn is a working offense. Why mess with that? Just let him fix the defense this offseason and run the offense back. Well, you're going to need to make some hires on the offensive side of the ball, certainly make some moves. So I think Alan Lazard, is out. I think there are going to be some moves made on the offensive side of the ball, some potential additions for the wide receiver core and free agency, and obviously a lot of hires here. So that's where I am. Alan, a bridge doesn't come with future cap hits, and A-Rod would do that. A-Rod would do that for a team that might be 9-8. My concern is Aaron Rodgers takes a small cap hit, and this team doesn't get in takes a small pay cut, and this team doesn't get into the playoffs next season. Again, I've been a huge preacher of the goal is to win a Super Bowl here, not just get in the playoffs. But at this point, among the quarterback options available, and from a health standpoint, too, I think Aaron Rodgers probably gives them the best chance to win next season. I think that's what you're trying to do. And let's be real, this team has the strong potential to get into the playoffs next season. Coaching is the difference between 12-5 and 5-12. That's what we saw last season. Jimmy says Connor doesn't want Howard. I want Will Howard in the 4th round. I'm not taking him in the 3rd round. Caden, get Javon Holland or Justin Reed in free agency. Justin Reed intrigues me a ton. Give me Justin Reed in free agency. Draft RJ Mickens. Draft Xavier Watts. I like that. I like the sound of that. Billy says take a kicker in the 6th round. I took Ryan Fitzgerald, kicker from FSU in the 7th round of my mock. Jimmy Milroe isn't worth a 1st-round pick. I think he's a 3rd-round talent this year. I got the Lane train in the building. Can the Jets draft Tyler Warren and Drew Aller? Well, Drew Aller isn't coming out till next year, and I doubt the Jets will take Tyler Warren, and I hope they do not take Tyler Warren with the 7th overall pick. Unless they trade back to like 15 or 17, and he's on the board, then you take him, but not in the top 10. Yeah, Jimmy. There we go. Jimmy Howard, maybe in the 4th if he's there. That's the vibe. Let's see. Allen 2025 should be a year to clean up JG's messes. Look at the amount of guys with void years in 2025 who won't be on the roster. I'll pull up the over the cap for you guys here. So you guys can get a feel for where we stand with the cap right now. Yeah, there's so many void years. I said the Jets should just eat all dead cap money next season and call it a bad tenure with JD. Darren Mougey comes in, eat it all, and then move on. Here we're 2025. Here are all the free agents the Jets have. Let's get this up on the screen here. We'll blow it up. Yeah, so look here, all the free agents the Jets have this offseason. Morgan Moses, we'll make a prediction here. We'll make a little prediction if we think they'll be back or not next season. Let's see. How do I go like that? We'll try to blow this up one more just to make it crystal clear for you guys. Oh no, now we lost it. Okay, no, I don't even think we can go that far. Okay, here it is. Morgan Moses, back. Veteran minimum as a backup. Chuck Clark, goodbye. Jalen Mills, I'd say he's back 1 year, $4 million, something like that. Oh, God, now it canceled. There we go. Isaiah Oliver, nope. Jamin Davis, nope. Tony Adams, ROFA tender for less than $1 million. Oh, it went up. Last I checked, it was less than $1 million. Now it's at $3 million. Nope. Goodbye. Ashton Davis, nope. Lucky Fotu, good riddance. Jamie and Sherwood, 3 years, a nice 3-year deal. I would love Jamie and Sherwood back on this team next year, but I think there's a strong chance he goes to Atlanta with Jeff Wilbrook. I think there's a chance that happens. Brendan Eccles, I'd say he gets a 4-year extension with the Jets. Gets an opportunity to play alongside Sauce Gardner. Kendall Sheffield, nope. Greg Joseph, nope. Jake Hansen, no. Sam McGuavin, no. Xavier Newman, no. Kenny Yeboah, potentially. My money's on no. Kane Nwangwu, no. Bruce Hector, no. Chaz Surratt, potentially. Malik Taylor, probably not. Irv Charles, give me Irv Charles on the ERFA tender for a little over $1 million next season. I would take that. Now let's look at the overall roster for next season. This is a really interesting one. If you cut him post June 1, you save over you make over $30 million in cap room. That could be favorable if they move on from Rodgers. We all know Rodgers, the $49 million you owe him scenario, all that. Nothing. Who has void years on their deal this season? Tyler Conklin with a void. He's a free agent. DJ Reed with a void. Free agent. Javon Kinlaw, void. Tyron Smith, void. Who else do we have? Wes Schweitzer, void. All these guys. Joe Douglas, putting the void years on these. I would describe it as like dummy years. I guess the way to call it, like add years to the contract. Not too good with explaining the void years here, but look at what Joe Douglas did. Decimating the defensive line. Putting void years on all these deals. Wrecking the team's future. From a cap perspective. It's an absolute mess. It's an absolute mess right now. I think, there's, especially if you move on from Rodgers, you have nothing to do in free agency. You have no money to do anything in free agency, which concerns me a lot. Caden says, we have no money, LOL. Yep. Kanan says, is it true if Rodgers comes back, Garrett's gone? It's been reported, but I doubt it. Jets have a lot of leverage in the Garrett Wilson scenario. They have him under contract this year. They have him under contract next year. Next year would be the 5th-year option. And then you still have the tag on him. I think they extend Garrett Wilson. He gets a nice... I would like him to get something similar to the Jalen Waddle, 3 for $75. I think he might ask for the Amon-Ra St. Brown 4 for $120. I think you have to pay him. He is a elite player on this team. He's a part of your young core. You have to bring him back on an extension. I don't care what it takes. Quarterback prone, play with 8 different quarterbacks, 1,000 yards all 3 seasons. He's a legend here. You gotta bring him back. 4 for $100, Caden says, sign me up. I'll pay Garrett Wilson 4 years, $100 million any day of the week. That's where I am with the G5 scenario. Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Appreciate all your support. Last chance to get your questions, comments, thoughts read. We're going to wrap up here now. Should be back tomorrow, 7 or 8 p.m. Same time, we're trying to go daily here on the show, which you guys support it, so we're gonna keep doing it. Your support means a ton to me and the program. So yeah, we'll probably, like I said, 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back tomorrow. Probably talk to some coordinators. We'll get a guest on. Try to get someone down in the Senior Bowl on the show to give us like an eyewitness recap. That could be exciting for sure. So appreciate you all. Last chance to get your comments, questions read. Caden says we need to fill the tight end and safety hole, most and possibly defensive line. I want another edge rusher for the defensive line. I want another edge rusher. I want 2 interior guys. I think they need 2 more tight ends, and I think they need 4 safeties. So a lot to fill in those 3 positions. I agree. I've been talking about those for a while now. When do you think the Jets' first coordinator hire will be by? I think they get at least 1 coordinator in here by Friday. That would be my prediction. And I think it's Steve Wilkes who's announced by Friday. So some point this week, I think we'll get the first coordinator hire. So, and then even after coordinators, though, it's still going to be a lot of talks, positional guys. It's going to take a little while, I think, until the full staff is filled out. If I had to make a prediction, though, Caden, Steve Wilkes is the defensive coordinator. He's hired by the end of the week here. Appreciate you all tuning in. Everyone have a great night. Looks like I am going to wrap up here. Be back tomorrow. Stay tuned. Appreciate all your support. Check out the Discord. Check out the merch store down below. Please join the Discord. Completely free. We're trying to grow it over there. Exclusive channel updates, daily discussions, and much more. Check that out. Join that. Super, super fun Jets talk. I think we have over like 30 of you guys in there. So check it out. If you ever have any advice you want to see on the show, just throw it in there. Throw it in the comments. Caden says, "What's the Discord?" Caden, it's like, I don't know if you know what Discord is. It's like a chatting service. A lot of streamers use it. Check it out down below. The link's there. Join it. We have daily Jets discussions. Give you exclusive channel updates. So if you haven't all, Caden, I don't think you are in the Discord based on your comment. I don't think I've seen you in there before. So be sure to join that. There's some super fun Jets talk, super fun conversations. And then if you haven't checked out the merch store already, please check that out. We have super fun items, super cool NY Flight Jets Talk merch in there. Please check it out. That would mean the world as we try to grow this program. In honor of, I know we've played it a few times as we kind of exit the show here, but Aaron Glenn officially introduced as the New York Jets head coach, and he seemed to win over the fan base. What is Aaron Glenn's approach to being a coach? How is he going to go ahead and fix the New York Jets? Well. This is him speaking on the Pivot podcast on what his philosophy is when it comes to coaching. That'll do it for me. Appreciate all your support. I am your host, Connor Long, signing off. And as always, JTS, Jets.
No doubt. And today's coaching, man, you have to be relatable, right? The players have to be able to sit down and talk to you and have a conversation. Man, there are so many players I'll talk to this day. Say, man, I've never had a chance to just sit and talk with a coach. I've never had a chance to have interaction and confrontation with a coach. It's almost like I got to shut up. And I said, no, man, tell me exactly what your issues are, right? And we could talk about it. Man, me and Tracy Walker, Tracy came to my house, right, before training camp. Me and Tracy was sitting there just knocking tape out. And one day he was just quiet. And I was like, what's wrong? He said, Coach, I've never, ever had a chance to go to a coach's house. You know, your wife over there cooking dinner, your daughter is running around, all right, and I'm sitting here watching tape. Man,
One more thing here before we wrap up. Last second at the buzzer, we have a caller on the line, so let's go out to him here before we wrap things up. Our guy Luppy is joining us here on the show. You got right in at the buzzer, Luppy.
Yeah, sorry about that, Connor. A little late on the
You're good.
call-in. Listen, you're amazing. You
I
are
appreciate
really
it.
somebody that's a star that's in the rise. I love it.
Thank you,
love watching
Luppy. I
all the
appreciate
time.
it.
I'm sorry getting here late all the time.
Oh,
I
good.
just got to say that Aaron Glenn at first, I was like, oh, why are we doing this? We're going through the same thing. Defensive coordinator, first time, new GM. But then the more I hear it, the more I hear all the stuff about him, the stuff is coming out differently than the old Jet coaches that we hired about negativity coming out. This is positivity. Positive. And then he comes out there and he just nails the press conference. I'm sure every single Jet fan is pumped up right now for Aaron Glenn to be the head coach of the New York Jets. One more thing is in the works. What kind of staff is he going to bring? That is it. That is the question right now, and that's what we're all worried about and wanting to see as a Jet fan.
Yeah, for sure, Luppy. Yeah, Aaron Glenn, I think certainly won fans over with his press conference today. I know it was concerning, especially for those who wanted experience. Well, it seems like Salah, you're going the first time defensive mind, kind of similar comparisons there. Luppy, he reminds me a lot of Mike Tomlin, and if you want to go like an,
I was going to say Tomlin Jr. I was going to
oh
say
yeah,
that, but I didn't want to do that. But definitely though. But
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you
No,
go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say yeah, he reminds me of Tomlin, and then a kind of former head coach of the team who reminds me a lot of from like an energy accountability standpoint is Herman Edwards. Both played defensive back in the league. That Herm Edwards, obviously the play to win the game quote, all the quotes that Aaron Glenn had already
And both
today.
inherited a team that was talented but underperformed.
Yep. Oh, that's another thing you gotta throw in there for sure. So, I think Aaron Glenn has the potential to be a solid head coach for this team. I think he certainly has the intangibles to win in New York. Has experience with the organization, knows what it's like to be a vocal point of this organization. You heard him talk today, Bill Parcells.
He wants this job. He wanted this job, so he got a
Exactly.
little bit of Rex in him too. That
Yeah.
he wants the job, and we all want to hear that a little bit too. There's a lot of people who take this job just to have the job, but he wants to be here. He wants to complete the story, so that's
Yeah.
great.
He wants to be a New York Jet, and completing the story, making it the best story possible. You can't write a book better than this. I think is something he said today. This third stint now with the organization, so I'm hoping he's able to deliver something special to this team. I think he certainly has what it takes to do so. You mentioned the coordinators there. I'd say the two front runners for the coordinator jobs. I think you're going to be satisfied with these names from a experience perspective. Steve Wilkes, I think, is going to get the defensive coordinator job. Has experience as a head coach. Yep, has experience as an interim head coach. Has been a DC before. He's going to come in. I think he's going to call plays. Aaron Glenn said he's not going to call defensive plays. So I think Steve Wilkes will come in. He'll be a play calling defensive coordinator. And then Pete Carmichael, again, has experience as a coordinator in this league. He's with the Broncos right now. Him and Glenn overlapped in New Orleans together. And then Mougey played a part in hiring him. I think he's a pass game coordinator. Oh no, he's a senior offensive analyst right now in Denver. So he's connected to both those guys. So if I had to make a prediction, it's Pete Carmichael as the offensive coordinator and
a lot of new people.
Yeah,
a lot of new people.
and Steve
a
Wilkes.
lot of variables.
Yeah, and Steve Wilkes is the defensive coordinator. So I think that's what's I think that's what it's gonna shape out.
You know what I like? He's picking Westhoff Sprain.
Yep.
As much as Westhoff, as much as Westhoff can't do anything anymore, he is a great football mind. And I'm telling you that Aaron Glenn is picking from a lot of the good people that he's learned from. And that's the one thing I like I said, I was not on board at first, but the more I hear about it, the more it's growing that, hey, this could work.
Yeah. He certainly, like I said, won fans over with today's press conference, and I think that's what you need. But when all's said and done, he's going to need to show us he's not Robert Saleh. He's not an Adam Gase. He's not a Todd Bowles. He's going to need to show he's able to go out and win on the field. So the real test comes in September when the season kicks off. There's no reason.
Show me the wins.
Exactly.
Show me the wins.
There's no reason this team can't be in the playoffs next season, Luppy.
Yep,
Coaching last
the
season.
wins.
Yep. Coaching last season is the difference between 5-12 and 12-5.
Kind of keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing. You got a great career.
Thank you so much, Luppy.
No
Appreciate the
problem.
call.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Luppy checking in at the buzzer. Gets his call in last minute. Appreciate those who stuck around for that last call after we were playing the outro video. That'll officially do it for me. Join the Discord if you haven't already. Caden just got in there, I saw. So join that, completely free. Ton of fun. Jets conversation in there. Appreciate all your support as always. I am Connor Long, and that'll do it tonight on this Monday evening edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, JTS. Jets, Jets, Jets.